All right, let's settle a debate that's been raging in the Dragon Ball fandom for years. What is the single most useless transformation in the entire series? I mean, if I asked you right now, I bet you'd all have a different answer. But is there one form that truly stands out as accomplishing, well, nothing? Okay, so before we start throwing forms under the bus, we need some ground rules, right? To judge these fairly, we have to have a really clear, consistent definition of what we're actually looking for. So here's the deal. For a form to be officially useless, it has to fail two key tests. One, it has no real purpose in the story. And two, it achieves absolutely nothing in a fight. And when I say accomplishment, that doesn't just mean winning. Stalling for time, forcing an enemy to change tactics, that'll count. It has to strike out on both fronts to be truly 100% useless. Now let's start by looking at some of the usual suspects. These are the forms that probably popped into your head first, but honestly, they've got a much stronger case than you might think. And first up, of course, is the form everyone loves to hate on, Super Saiyan 3. You know the look. The crazy long hair, no eyebrows, and that massive, massive stamina drain. It's a pretty easy target. Yeah, the biggest complaint you always hear is that it feels totally shoehorned into the Buu saga. I mean, think about it. Super Saiyan 1 and 2 were built up for ages. Super Saiyan 3 just appears. It felt more like a cool new design than something the plot actually needed. But when you actually look at its track record, Super Saiyan 3 was a master of buying time. It held off Majin Buu just long enough for Trunks to go find the Dragon Radar. It was the only reason Gotenks and Piccolo were able to blast their way out of the hyperbolic time chamber. And it stalled Super Buu just long enough for Gohan to show up. Now, are those victories? No. But are they absolutely crucial story accomplishments? You bet they are. Next up on the chopping block, Super Saiyan God. This is the one a lot of people feel was basically replaced the second it showed up. It appears for one movie, and then poof. And yeah, on the surface, the case against it looks pretty solid. It doesn't have that legendary buildup like the original Super Saiyan. Goku actually loses his first fight using it, and then it seems to just vanish in favor of Super Saiyan Blue in the very next story arc. But the purpose of this form goes so much deeper than just winning a fight. It's symbolic, you know? It represents Goku's strength coming from his bonds with his friends and family. It was the form that saved Earth from Beerus, and it completely shattered the power ceiling for the entire series. Plus, in the manga, it becomes this key strategic tool for saving stamina. So, far from useless. Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about why bad forms actually matter. We're going to see how some of these intentionally flawed transformations are actually essential for the story. Sometimes a form's purpose isn't to win, but it's to teach the characters and us a really valuable lesson. The Super Saiyan grade forms are the perfect example of this idea. They were necessary failures. Grade 2 gave Vegeta more power, sure, but it also made him arrogant and sloppy. Grade 3 gave Trunks all the power in the world, but it sacrificed all of his speed. These weren't mistakes in the story. They were the essential stepping stones. Goku had to see those flaws to figure out the true path to mastering the Super Saiyan form. And what about Vegeta's blue evolution? At first glance, you might just think, oh, that's just a slightly sparklier, more powerful version of blue to help him keep up with Goku. But no, it was a huge deal for Vegeta's character. It represents him finally getting to that next level entirely on his own terms, not just chasing after Kakarot's coattails. And more than that, it becomes his main go-to transformation for the entire Moro arc in the manga, driving the story and playing a huge role in that final battle. All right, this is where it gets really interesting. We're now getting into the real contenders for the title. These are the forms that come incredibly close to being useless and are only saved by like a single tiny moment or purpose. Okay, let's run through these close calls. First, Trunks' Super Saiyan Rage. It's an anime-only thing, it shows up with zero explanation, and it doesn't win any fights. It's almost perfectly useless. Except for one thing. It held off fused Zamasu's just long enough for Goku and Vegeta to escape to the past. Saved by a thread. Then you've got Piccolo's Great Namekian form from way back. It gave him no real power boost and was just a trick that completely backfired. For decades, it was a total joke, until the movie Superhero brought it back as a key part of the fight against Cell Max. And finally, what about that version of Super Buu after he absorbed Piccolo? It was a massive power downgrade, but it had a purpose. It tricked Gohan into letting his guard down, which led directly to him getting absorbed, raising the stakes through the roof. Each one just barely escapes. All right, this is it, the moment of truth. We've eliminated all the main contenders, we've defended the usual suspects, we've shown why flawed forms matter, so what's left? We've seen that even the most hated or flawed transformations had at least one key thing going for them, one moment that saved them from being completely pointless. But there is one that doesn't. So, which form fails both parts of our test? Which transformation has zero story relevance and zero tangible achievements? Well, there's only one. The single most useless form in the history of Dragon Ball is Piccolo's potential unleashed form from the movie Superhero. And to be clear, I'm talking about the temporary power-up he gets from Shenron right before he achieves his real new form, Orange Piccolo. So let's just break this down piece by piece, why this form fails on every single level. It was acquired for one reason and one reason only, to beat Gamma 2. And it failed. It was immediately and completely replaced by Orange Piccolo, which did succeed. And maybe worst of all, it was totally unnecessary for the story. Gohan and Krillin both had their potential unlocked before without needing a whole new, temporary form to show it. This power-up achieved nothing in combat, and it served no unique purpose in the plot. It is the absolute definition of a dead end. It fails on both of our counts. Which leaves us with one last, kind of interesting thought. Does a truly useless form like this actually make the story better? Maybe by showing us exactly what a pointless dead-end power-up looks like, it makes us appreciate all the other transformations, the flawed ones, the hard-earned ones, the game-changing ones, that much more. What do you think? Let us know.